In a time long past, when the world was young, and the stories of gods and legends were not yet bound by the ink of men, there lay a vast, serene sea. It stretched endlessly under a clear sky, reflecting shades of orange and amber as the first light of dawn kissed its waves. Amid this tranquil expanse lay the island of the Cyclopes, shrouded in mystery and untouched by the hand of man. The island rose from the sea like an ancient guardian, its rugged terrain cloaked in the whispers of myths and legends. This island, hidden away in the depths of antiquity, was a place where the march of time seemed slower, imbued with echoes of creation's early days. The air was thick with the scent of wild herbs and the songs of unseen birds, composing a harmonious tribute to the untamed beauty of the land. Solitude reigned here, as if the island itself were a world apart where silence carried the weight of ancient secrets. In the waking hours of spring, before man left his indelible mark upon the earth, this was a realm untouched by progress. The whole of it was wrapped in an aura of timelessness, where legends were born in the breath of the wind and laid to rest beneath the stars. It was a place where the very soil seemed to exhale stories from the dawn of time, tales of gods and giants, and of the mighty Cyclopes who called this isle their home. The island was kept isolated by the gentle embrace of the sea, a formidable yet peaceful boundary that shielded it from the curiosities of the outer world. The waters acted as a guardian, separating the familiar shores of men from the unknown mysteries of this secluded enclave. This isolation lent the island an air of mysticism, like a gem hidden within the folds of the earth, its luster unseen by mortal eyes. Inhabitants of this mysterious land, the Cyclopes, were beings of immense stature and unmatched strength. They were creatures entwined with the fabric of myth, known for their singular eye, which symbolized a profound clarity and focus. Of these mighty beings, Polyphemus stood as one, solitary, strong, and curious. It was he who roamed the rolling hills and tended to the sheep that grazed upon the lush grass of the island. Polyphemus lived a life defined by solitude, yet within him burned a curiosity about the world beyond and his place within it. The island's quiet and mystical ambience was a constant companion to the Cyclopes. Their existence was a tapestry woven with tales of nature's wonders and the silent language of the stars. Here, under the shadow of ancient peaks, Polyphemus and his kin found peace in their crafts and labors, their days marked by the rhythmic cadence of creation and reflection. This was a world where the boundaries between myth and reality blurred, and the story of Polyphemus began against this serene backdrop. As the sun rose higher, casting its warm light over the land, the stage was set for the tales of the Cyclopes to unfold. The island, with its ancient mysteries and serene silence, awaited the saga of its inhabitants, who lived in harmony with the timeless rhythm of the earth. The dawn cast a warm amber glow over the serene island, painting it in hues of tranquility. Within a rugged yet well-worn cave on this isolated piece of land, Polyphemus, the Cyclops, began his day much like any other. Living a life of solitude, he found both comfort and reflection within his stony home, a refuge from the vastness of the world. His solitary existence was not born of mere choice, but a natural rhythm synchronized with the island's untouched serenity. The mornings on the island were quiet, filled with the gentle sounds of nature awakening. Polyphemus rose with the sun, the golden light sweeping across the cave's rocky interior, casting shadows that danced with the awakening world. Strong and sturdy, Polyphemus was a powerful figure, yet his strength was tempered with a deep, ingrained curiosity. As he stepped beyond the cave, the island stretched out before him, a familiar sight that never failed to spark his inquisitive gaze toward the endless horizon. His morning routine was a harmonious dance with the natural world, a connection that sustained him in both body and spirit. Carefully, Polyphemus tended to his flock of sheep, their bleating a comforting melody that filled the air. Each sheep was precious, a companion in his solitude, and each day he ensured their well-being with dutiful care. While attending to their needs, his gaze often strayed to the distant sea, his ever-present curiosity drawing his mind to the world beyond the island's borders. Polyphemus's thoughts wandered as freely as the sea breeze, reflecting on his existence and the vastness that lay beyond. Here, on this ancient island, under the expansive sky, he contemplated the stories whispered through the winds and waves, a world he longed to understand yet remained elusive. Despite his strength, there remained an inner need, an unfulfilled desire to grasp his place amidst these mysteries, a piece of a larger tapestry that he could only grasp in fleeting moments of fleetness. Insight. As the sun climbed higher, Polyphemus devoted himself to crafting, a task that brought both purpose and peace. His hands, familiar with the tools and materials of creation, worked steadily, shaping stone and wood into forms that were both functional and artistic. The act of creation was not merely a way to pass the time, but a reflection of his inner world, a manifestation of the beauty and complexity that lay within him. Through crafting, he sought to safeguard the secrets and treasures of his kind, upholding the legacy of the Cyclopes. In the solitude of his craft, Polyphemus found perspective, his mind weaving between the tangible and intangible, pondering the vast expanse of the universe and his small yet significant part within it. His creations were gifts to the island, symbols of his duty to protect and maintain the delicate balance that allowed the Cyclopes to thrive in isolation. As the day waned, Polyphemus would often sit at the mouth of his cave, lost in thought as he watched the sun dip below the horizon. The vast sea shimmered in the fading light, a boundary between his solitary world and the realms that lay beyond. In these moments of quiet reflection, he found a sense of peace, an understanding that while his world might be limited in breadth, it was vast in depth and richness. The serene cadence of island life continued its gentle rhythm, with Polyphemus at its heart, a guardian of its secrets and wonders. Yet, within him burned an eternal curiosity, a desire to comprehend the world's vast and unfathomable expanse. As night fell and the stars emerged, he embraced the solitude, welcoming the mysteries that the next dawn would surely bring. Amidst the peaceful solitude of the isolated island, Polyphemus was not alone in his existence. The rhythmic sounds of hammer on anvil echoed softly across the stony landscape, announcing the presence of others, Brontes and Steropes, fellow Cyclopes known for their remarkable craftsmanship. Each day, these giants of myth immersed themselves in the ancient art of creation, their one-eyed gaze focused entirely on the tasks at hand. They were the embodiment of skill and dedication, continuing the traditions of the Cyclopes who were renowned for their legendary creations, from thunderbolts for Zeus to the trident of Poseidon. Inside the warm glow of the forge, Brontes demonstrated his renowned prowess. The heat of the fire danced across his rugged features as he crafted a magnificent weapon. Graceful in his movements yet powerful in execution, he turned raw metal into a gleaming artifact of beauty and strength. The clang of metal striking metal was a song of diligence and transformation, each strike purposeful and imbued with the essence of the forge, a place where the Cyclopes' identity as master craftsmen shone brightly. Meanwhile, Steropes, the thoughtful observer, found solace in the deep connection he held with the island and its secrets. From a young age, he felt the vibrant hum of the earth beneath his feet and the timeless whispers of the sea, elements that effortlessly infused themselves into his work. His creations were more than mere objects. They were harmonies sung by the island itself, blending the mysteries of nature with the indomitable spirit of craftsmanship that defined his kind. In his quiet steadiness lay profound appreciation for the nuanced balance between isolation and the creative force it kindled. The forge itself was a symbol that encapsulated the Cyclopean world, an ever-glowing emblem of creation and skill. It was a sanctuary of warmth and life, where ideas took form and the past mingled with the present. Within its fiery embrace, the Cyclopes found purpose and identity, their focus unnerved by neither the split waves of the surrounding sea nor the passage of time. Here, creation was a communal experience, an invisible thread binding them to one another and to their island home. As they worked, the Cyclopes moved in harmony, their labors a choreography of strength and precision. Brontes and Steropes complemented one another effortlessly, with Brontes' strength fueling Steropes' insights, and Steropes' calm demeanor steadying Brontes' fiery drive. This synergy was a testament to their shared purpose and unyielding dedication to their craft. It was not merely work. It was a lifelong devotion to a task that connected them with their ancestral legacy, echoing the tales of the times when Cyclopes forged mighty relics for the gods. The importance of craftsmanship in Cyclopean culture was evident in every creation. Each artifact bore the mark of its maker, a signature of skill and passion. This craftsmanship was not just a means to produce items of utility or beauty. It was a language through which the Cyclopes communicated their understanding of the world. Such creations were imbued with a spirit that only isolation could nurture, a clockwork of unity, woven from focus and clarity. In their creations, the Cyclopes also found a way to safeguard their secrets, woven into the very fabric of their art. Unlike Polyphemus, Brontes and Steropes felt no pressing curiosity about the wider world. Their focus was directed inwards, towards the richness of their hidden talents and the treasures they could unlock. The harmony and efficiency of their work spoke of a deeper truth known only to them, a truth bound to the island's quiet power and the Cyclopes' enigmatic existence. As the warmth of the forge enveloped the Cyclopes, the echoes of their past creations filled the space with a quiet sense of achievement. Here, tucked away from the eyes of the world, they toiled in contentment, blissfully unaware that this tranquil routine would soon meet the unpredictable nature of fate. The rhythm of their hammers promised continuity, yet unbeknownst to them, their world was poised on the brink of change. And so, within the fire-lit glow of the forge, Polyphemus and his fellow craftsmen continued their tireless dance of creation, bonded by tradition and purpose. As their rhythmic artistry played out, the gentle hum of the sea continued its endless song, a background melody to the life they led. Around them, the island remained a steadfast guardian of secrets, cocooned in timeless solitude, a solitude that would soon be interrupted by unexpected visitors from beyond the waves. The calm rhythm of life on the island of the Cyclopes carried on, unperturbed by the waves that gently lapped against its shores. As the sun climbed higher, painting warm shades across the sea, a shadow disrupted the serene backdrop. It was a ship, cutting through the sunlit waters with a quiet determination. Odysseus and his men, navigators of the vast unknown, spotted the island in the distance, its mystery beckoning to them like a siren's call. From the deck of the ship, the sailors gazed upon the island with cautious wonder. This secluded land, marked by towering cliffs and verdant hills, promised new adventures and untold stories. The sea breeze carried with it the scent of ancient secrets, whispering of a world untouched by human hands. Despite the island's allure, there was a current of caution that ran through the men, a reminder of the unpredictability of such untouched lands. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Odysseus guided his ship toward the shore. His clever mind turned over possibilities and strategies, ever the tactician even amidst beauty and tranquility. The island's boundaries offered him both a challenge and a sanctuary from the trials of his long journey. As the keel kissed the sand, a sense of adventure and anticipation gripped him. There was something welcoming yet mysterious about this place that fueled his desire to explore. First stepping onto the soft sands, Odysseus and his men were enveloped by the serene beauty that surrounded them. Tall grasses whispered in the gentle wind, and the sun bathed everything in a golden light. Nature seemed to thrive here in harmony, a landscape that stood quietly apart from the chaos of the wider world. It was a momentary respite, yet there was an underlying presence, an energy that promised discovery and caution in equal measure. While his men rested by the ship, Odysseus wandered deeper into the island, drawn by its secrets. The soft crunch of pebbles and the distant call of birds accompanied his thoughts. He ventured through groves and pastures, feeling the island's history seep into the air he breathed. Each step carried him closer to an encounter that would echo through his tale for generations. His path soon brought him to a clearing where he encountered Polyphemus, a towering figure who stood out against the backdrop of the island's serenity. At once powerful and solitary, the Cyclops eyed Odysseus with guarded intrigue. Here was a stranger from beyond the sea, bringing with him the scent of distant lands and the allure of elsewhere. Polyphemus, who had known only the companionship of his fellow Cyclopes in the island, felt the stirrings of curiosity mingled with caution. Odysseus approached with careful diplomacy, recognizing the power and potential threat before him. His cleverness, honed by countless encounters with gods and men alike, guided his words as he introduced himself and his purpose. Polyphemus listened intently, the curiosity in his single eye sharpened by the unexpectedness of this moment. There was much to consider in this meeting of worlds, the solitary Cyclops and the seasoned sailor, each a guardian of their own realm. In this peaceful setting, Odysseus explained the journey that had serendipitously brought him to the shores of the Cyclopes' dwelling. He spoke of lands far beyond the horizon, of navigation guided by stars, and the allure of tales that carried the weight of history. Polyphemus, unsettled yet captivated, weighed these words with the care of one who guarded secrets long held within the island's borders. As the sun continued its tranquil arc across the sky, the island played silent witness to this fateful meeting. The tranquility of the landscape remained unbroken, even as history unfolded upon its stage. Here, on this serene and secluded island, a moment of shared understanding was forged, laced with the inherent caution of those who see beyond the immediately present. In the gentle lapping of the waves, the island cradled this encounter, hinting at stories yet unfurled. Thus the stage was set for deeper interactions and the weaving of destinies, as Polyphemus contemplated the presence of Odysseus and the horizon beyond which he had come. In the gentle glow of the evening, within the confines of the Cyclopean cave, Polyphemus found himself in a moment of deep contemplation. The arrival of Odysseus and his men had stirred a myriad of emotions within the solitary Cyclops. Despite his reservations, a sense of obligation to the ancient customs of hospitality compelled Polyphemus to offer food and shelter to the newcomers. As Odysseus seated himself across from Polyphemus, the warmth from the hearth cast dancing shadows around them, illuminating the sparse yet sturdy interior of the cave. Odysseus, ever observant, noted the simplicity of Cyclopean life, a life devoid of the complexities of the city-states he knew. Here, among the rocky hills and grazing sheep, life unfolded in a rhythm both humble and profound. The Cyclopes, living in isolation, had cast aside the burdens of politics and conflict, thriving in their craftsmanship and communion with nature. Intrigued by this way of life, Odysseus's keen mind catalogued the richness in simplicity that these mythical beings enjoyed. Despite the calm unfolding of the meal, a palpable tension hung in the air. Odysseus, known far and wide for his cunning and wit, found himself in contrast to Polyphemus's straightforward nature. Each observed the other with a cautious interest, their minds working to gauge intent and trustworthiness. It was this balance of cleverness and simplicity that marked the beginning of a unique, albeit tentative, understanding between the two. They were creatures of vastly different worlds, yet in this quiet evening they shared a common table. The conversation, though sparse, probed the ways of the Cyclopes. Polyphemus, with a lumbering yet sincere tone, spoke of their solitary lifestyle, each Cyclops enjoying his own cave, his own sheep, his own world apart from the tumult of broader society. To Odysseus, this existence seemed both idyllic and alien. He marveled at how such beings, with their immense strength and simplicity, had eschewed the chaos that so often enveloped human affairs. Drawn to the craftsmanship of the Cyclopes, Odysseus's gaze drifted to the tools and creations scattered throughout the cave. Among these, a finely crafted spear caught his eye, its balance and form a testament to the skill of its maker. Here, where fires roared in forges and hammers rang against anvils, the Cyclopes carved their mark upon the world. This silent dance of creation, an art both ancient and revered, wrapped Odysseus's mind in admiration. Slowly, around the flickering light, a hesitant acceptance began to form. Polyphemus, despite his doubts, began to see in Odysseus a curiosity that mirrored his own desires to understand the world beyond the sea. Meanwhile, Odysseus, seeing the strong yet gentle nature of Polyphemus, found a begrudging respect for the Cyclops, allowing his guard to lower, if only slightly. The center of the cave held a forge, its stones and embers speaking of untold stories of creation and skill. It was here that the Cyclopean mastery of craft lived and thrived, an echo of volcanic power harnessed by skilled hands. Odysseus could hardly contain his interest, for in this forge lay the secrets of weapons and tools that had caught the eye of legends. As Polyphemus watched Odysseus's gaze, he too felt the pull of the forge, its heat a reminder of both his duties and his curiosities, the inner need to connect with something greater than himself. And so, in the flickering amber glow of the firelight, Polyphemus wrestled with his thoughts. His desire to protect the secrets and treasures of the Cyclopes clashed with his burgeoning wish to understand the world that Odysseus represented. It was a tension that would not soon find resolution, but for the moment, there was a quiet accord between the ancient inhabitant of the island and the clever intruder from the sea. As the evening drew to a close, their shared meal a symbol of tentative truce, a seed of interaction was planted on this remote island. It was the beginning of a narrative of understanding and misinterpretation that neither character could foresee. Within the cave's embrace, the flickering light became a beacon of burgeoning connection, casting their shadows against the formidable wall that separated isolation from exploration. In the stillness that followed their meal, Odysseus and Polyphemus lingered in thought, each pondering the path that lay ahead. Here, at the intersection of curiosity and duty, their worldviews would inevitably collide. Yet, in this serene moment, understanding hovered like a gentle sea breeze, offering a glimpse of what stories could unfold between such disparate worlds. As dusk settled gently over the Cyclopean island, a subtle yet profound shift began to unfold. Odysseus and his men, weary from their travels and wary of the singular hospitality extended to them, pondered their situation in the deepening shadows of Polyphemus's cave. The island's quiet serenity amplified their awareness of potential dangers lurking unseen. Odysseus, ever observant, noted the vast sea as an imposing boundary that separated the familiar world of men from this ancient realm. Polyphemus's straightforward gestures held an underlying tension. Feeling the weight of their intrusion, Odysseus's thoughts were laced with the need for a strategic plan to either ensure their safety or prompt a timely departure, lest the situation turn unfavorable. Polyphemus, on the other hand, appeared increasingly restless. The presence of Odysseus and his crew stirred within him a sense of unease. The solitary Cyclops, once content in his patterned routine, now found himself questioning the motives behind these newcomers' arrival. His single massive eye, emblematic of his keen focus, now fixed upon Odysseus with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. This eye, a symbol of clarity to the Cyclopes, began to perceive the nuances of Odysseus' cleverness as potentially threatening rather than intriguing. What should have been a peaceful coexistence now bore an undercurrent of distrust. The Cyclopean world, uninterrupted for countless eras, felt the ripple of intrusion that could upset its ancient equilibrium. Amid this brewing tension, Odysseus sensed Polyphemus's growing suspicion and pondered the necessity of his crew's safe passage back to the wider world. The tranquil sea served as a silent reminder of the precarious balance between isolation and exploration. During their interactions, Polyphemus posed subtle questions to Odysseus about life beyond the waves, queries that carried an edge of longing for connection and understanding. This exchange illuminated contrasting perceptions as Odysseus spoke of lands with bustling men and fervent pursuits, piquing Polyphemus's curiosity. However, the Cyclops' instinct for safeguarding his realm tinged this curiosity with caution. Thus, what was meant to be a simple visit began to unfold into a complex narrative of conflicting desires. The conversations revealed not just differing views on hospitality and craft, but deeper conflicts rooted in misunderstanding and fear of the unknown. A minor disagreement arose, not in raised voices, but rather in hesitant tones and lingering glances. This verbal dance between Odysseus and Polyphemus hinted at the rift that loomed ever closer. Odysseus's clever retorts, often laced with innuendo and veiled meanings, were sharp enough to make Polyphemus wonder if Odysseus harbored designs upon the Cyclopean treasures and secrets. Odysseus, whose mind spun with plans, knew that their stay could not last indefinitely if Polyphemus's suspicion transformed fully into open hostility. With his keen understanding of human nature, Odysseus began devising a plan to ensure the safety and escape of his crew. He fully grasped the Cyclopean affinity for craftsmanship and saw it reflected in the island. The looming presence of the sea, which epitomized the final border between worlds and adventures, inspired Odysseus's contemplation. He realized that navigating these currents of tension required a deft approach to preserve both the Cyclope's serene life and his men's safety. Polyphemus's single-eye motif, representative of focus and clarity, had become a crucial element of the unfolding uncertainty, seeing through the mist of Odysseus's intentions. As night softened the boundaries between host and visitor, both Odysseus and Polyphemus stood at the threshold of crucial decisions. Each moment passed like the gentle whisper of the sea against the island's shores. Soon, the ancient echoes of strife would demand resolution, gently guiding the interlopers back toward their own familiar seas. It was now a matter of avoiding any threads of conflict that would disturb the island's peace while safeguarding their own futures. For both the Cyclops and the sailor, the arrival at this juncture heralded a delicate looming path, where each action carried the weight of inevitability. Thus, in the heart of the Cyclopean cave, as dusk enveloped the island like a gentle cloak, Polyphemus and Odysseus faced the brimming conflict with minds steeled by their respective intentions. The sea remained a sentinel, watching quietly as ancient storylines unfolded beneath its vast tapestry. With deft moves and minimal fanfare, Odysseus mulled over strategies that would guide them all safely past brewing storms of misunderstanding. What lay ahead was a clash of perceptions, softly woven into the island's fabric, and an imminent departure into the enduring mythology of their times. As night descended upon the island, the darkness inside the cave where Odysseus and his men were trapped became thick and oppressive. Polyphemus, the towering Cyclops, had become increasingly hostile, his suspicion towards the strangers mounting with every passing moment. The once tentative hospitality had soured, and now the urgency to escape weighed heavily on Odysseus and his crew. They had entered this mystical world of the Cyclopes with a sense of wonder, but now they found themselves ensnared in a situation that seemed as dire as it was unyielding. Odysseus, known for his unparalleled cleverness, devised a plan that leaned on both cunning and patience. Introducing himself to Polyphemus earlier as nobody, he laid the groundwork for a trick as subtle as the sea breeze itself. It was this deception that Odysseus would leverage at the critical moment. Polyphemus, unaware of the full breadth of Odysseus's wit, was poised to underestimate his adversary, and thus Odysseus' ruse took root, quietly biding its time. Wine, warm and thick with the aroma of fermented grapes, played a pivotal role as Odysseus offered it to Polyphemus. The Cyclops, unaccustomed to the potent drink, accepted it with a naivete born of isolation. Night after night, the intoxicating brew dulled Polyphemus's senses, wrapping him in a drowsy stupor. The simplicity of this moment belied the complexity of its consequences, as the intoxicant drew Polyphemus deeper into vulnerability, nudged gently by Odysseus' sly smile. When Polyphemus finally succumbed to slumber, his singular eye heavy with the wine's weight, Odysseus and his men set their plan into motion. The blinding of Polyphemus was a grim yet necessary reality. It is said that they used a long, sharpened timber, which they had been quietly preparing, and heated it within the flickering flames of the cave's fire. The act, symbolic as much as strategic, was carried out with precision, thrusting the spike into Polyphemus's eye, rendering the massive creature sightless. The cave filled with the Cyclops' cries, echoing against the ancient stone walls and out into the night. When Polyphemus called for assistance from his fellow Cyclopes, he roared that nobody was harming him, leading them to abandon any aid, misunderstanding as part of Odysseus's cunning design. This clever play on language turned the simple word into a shield, protecting Odysseus and his men from further threat. Following the blinding, Odysseus instructed his men in quiet whispers, ensuring that their escape was orchestrated with the calm precision of a sailor charting a course through uncharted waters. They must bide their time until the perfect moment, waiting for the cloak of night to offer its protection. Polyphemus, now disoriented, resorted to sweeping his hands across the cave's floor, hoping to catch the intruders, but his efforts were thwarted both by his blindness and the cunning of his captives. Their escape was ingeniously tied to the very creatures over which Polyphemus held dominion, his sheep. As dawn approached, Odysseus and his men carefully lashed themselves to the undersides of the sheep, a silent procession that would lead them to freedom when Polyphemus released his flock to graze. This method ensured that Polyphemus's hands, fumbled blindly over the animals' backs, would not discover their presence. Through the cave's entrance they went, the muted sounds of the outside world offering them solace. The morning's first light, gentle yet firm, marked their passage from confinement into the open air. As they slid past the boundary of the cave, the weight of their perilous venture began to lift. With Polyphemus's bellows fading into the distance, the horizon beckoned, a promise of return to the familiar world of men. In ultimate irony, as the ship finally cut through the placid sea away from the island's towering cliffs, Odysseus could not resist revealing his true identity to Polyphemus. This hubris-saturated declaration stirred the simmering curse within the Cyclops, altering the calmness of the air around them into a forewarning of future trials. Thus, Odysseus's cleverness, both boon and bane, completed its intricate dance across this mythical stage, and the tale of guile and escape drew to a fitting, if bittersweet, close. Their ingenious escape orchestrated under the watchful eyes of destiny now left Odysseus and his men to the roll of the waves and the open sea. In the quiet that followed this cunning night, they sailed onward, bearing the echoes of their triumph mingled with the weight of Polyphemus's curse, a reminder of the unseen and the stories written. by the hands of the gods themselves. As the first light of dawn began to illuminate the island of the Cyclopes, Odysseus and his men were poised for their daring escape. The gentle hues of morning created a serene backdrop to their carefully laid plan. With Polyphemus temporarily blinded and in a deep slumber induced by wine, the crew seized this moment to slip away and make their way back to the world of men. Quietly, they gathered at the entrance of the cave, ensuring their movements were as stealthy as possible in the dim light. They were driven by a mixture of fear and hope, aware that this was their sole chance for freedom. The clever ruse involving the sheep unfurled as planned. Each man positioned himself beneath the belly of a ram, securely hidden from the searching hands of Polyphemus. When the sun rose higher, the sheep herded naturally out of the cave, with Odysseus and his men clinging below. This ingenious maneuver allowed them to pass undetected by the Cyclops, who, despite having his sight taken, reached out to feel the top of each animal as it left. Blissfully unaware of their strategy, Polyphemus allowed his flock, and thus the men under them, to proceed unchecked toward the open fields beyond. Once outside the confines of the cave, Odysseus and his crew moved swiftly to their ship, which awaited them by the island's shore. Polyphemus, however, soon realized his prisoners had escaped and made his way to the shore, guided by the familiar sounds of the sea. His voice, deep and resonant, called out for assistance from his fellow Cyclopes. Yet, as misfortune would have it, none ventured to his aid, fooled previously by Odysseus' clever identity as nobody. The clear dawn air carried Odysseus' voice above the waves as the ship began to distance itself from the island. Prideful, and wanting the giant to know the true identity of the one who outwitted him, Odysseus couldn't resist boasting, calling out his real name. This revelation deeply stirred Polyphemus, who, in great distress, invoked a curse upon Odysseus, pleading to his father, Poseidon, to ensure a treacherous journey ahead for the mortal and his crew. Despite the curse now lingering over them, the ship continued its journey across the placid sea, symbolizing a crossing from the realm of myths back to the world of men. As they sailed, Odysseus reflected on the power of his own ingenuity. Yet he could not shake off the unease that intertwined with the pride of having evaded such a formidable adversary. The sea, which separated their fates, became a boundary lined with consequences unforeseen, a reminder of the cost ingenious plans may incur. Odysseus and his men held a temperate camaraderie, bonded by their shared experience and aware that the sea bore them toward uncertain futures. Though they had escaped the immediate danger posed by Polyphemus, Odysseus felt the weight of the Cyclops' pronouncement heavy in his heart. Between the rhythmic lapping of the sea against the hull and the distant horizon softly beckoning, they sailed into the unknown, with only the guiding stars above and the promise of further adventures to lead them on. Polyphemus could only watch as the ship vanished into the distance. There was a distress within him, not only from the physical pain but the deeper wound of betrayal and loss. On the shore, he lingered, caught between rage and reflection. As the calm waves carried the ship further, the Cyclops grappled with his feelings, pondering not just the night's events, but the broader realities beyond his island home. In this introspection, he began to see the limits to his solitary life, a revelation both clarifying and confining. As dawn broke fully over the serene island, peace slowly returned, leaving behind the faint echo of what had transpired. Odysseus' journey was far from over, and the future remained shrouded in mystery. But for Polyphemus, the quiet shores marked the beginning of his own new understanding of solitude. A solitude now enriched by the bittersweet nature of the encounter. Both beings, now separated by distance and destiny, would continue on their paths, forever touched by the crossing of their worlds. As the first light of dawn chased away the night shadows, Polyphemus stood alone on the island shore, gazing out at the vast and unyielding sea. The departure of Odysseus and his crew had left an indelible mark, not just upon the island, but within Polyphemus himself. The cleverness and cunning shown by the strangers were a stark reminder of the world beyond his island's tranquil bounds, a world Polyphemus had never fully considered. The solitude of the island, once a comfort for Polyphemus, now felt overwhelmingly quiet. The encounters of the previous days replayed in his mind, each moment seared with a sense of betrayal and confusion. This was a new, uncomfortable sensation for Polyphemus, a Cyclops used to the simple and predictable rhythms of his life. He pondered the breach of trust, not grasping how quickly things had changed from hesitant hospitality to a strategic escape. As word of the encounter spread among the Cyclopes, stories of Odysseus's ingenuity quickly became part of their shared narrative. Brontes and Steropes, upon hearing the tale, visited Polyphemus, offering their silent empathy. They understood the pain of betrayal and the weight of unanswered questions. Together, they sat by the forge, the place of creation and warmth that had always brought solace. It was here, amid the glowing embers and rhythmic hammering, that Polyphemus sought comfort, channeling his emotions into his craft. His hammer rose and fell with the deliberation of a mind lost in thought, the anvil singing an ancient song. But the gnawing sense of longing for understanding lingered. Polyphemus had always perceived the island as his entire world, yet now it felt small and isolated. The visit from Odysseus had shattered this perception, leaving a gap filled by questions about his place in a world larger than the island he called home. He turned to Brontes, hoping his skilled companion could offer guidance. While Brontes spoke little, his careful, deliberate actions at the forge conveyed wisdom. He demonstrated how creation could be a balm for wounded pride and a path toward inner peace. Meanwhile, the island itself resumed its quiet existence, the land absorbing the shock of the recent disruption. The gentle sea waves continued their timeless dance with the shore, whispering stories of old, as if reassuring the island and its inhabitants of their place in eternity. The single-eye motif, often emblematic of the Cyclopes' focus and clarity, now seemed to underscore Polyphemus's need to turn inward, seeking answers and understanding within himself. This focus gave Polyphemus a quiet strength and a sense of direction. Still, the need for comprehension loomed large. How did he fit into the wider tapestry of existence that Odysseus and his tales had revealed? Steropes, with his observant and steady nature, spent time with Polyphemus, sharing silent companionship. His contemplation of the island's landscape offered comfort, suggesting that perhaps the answers Polyphemus sought were not in the clamor of distant stories, but in the stillness of his heart and the familiar beauty of the island. Polyphemus, turning back to the craft, found a semblance of peace. He shaped new pieces, each becoming an exploration of thought and feeling, forging connections between his hands, heart, and the world. With each strike, Polyphemus understood that knowledge and purpose were not found in distant lands, but were forged from within. The desire to comprehend became a guiding light, marking a path forward through reflection and creation. The lingering quest for meaning brought a profound change to Polyphemus and his fellow Cyclopes. The encounter with Odysseus had opened not only the depths of his heart, but also suggested that true strength lay in understanding oneself. Polyphemus resumed his life, tending to his sheep once more, the simple acts grounding him amidst the swirling emotions. The island now resonated with a sense of quiet peace, the tales of Odysseus blending into its ancient narrative. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the island in soft reds and dusky tones, Polyphemus felt the soothing embrace of familiarity and the promise of growth. The encounter had been transformative, a reminder that questions unanswered can still lead to learning and acceptance. He stood at the shore once more, the horizon stretching endlessly, a symbol of the vast possibilities of understanding that lay ahead. Brontes and Steropes, retreating to their work, left Polyphemus at peace, the day's events gently fading into a lesson etched on the heart of the Cyclops. There, by the tranquil sea, Polyphemus gazed at the expanse, pondering his place in the world, his resolve firm yet gentle as the waves at his feet. Polyphemus stood silently at the entrance to the forge, the familiar warmth radiating through the doors, beckoning him forward. The forge had always been a place of solace for him, a sanctuary where the fires mirrored the fierce passion within him, and where the rhythmic sound of hammer on anvil echoed the steady beat of his heart. As he stepped inside, the glow of the forge enveloped him, casting long shadows against the stone walls, turning the space into a world of its own, separate from the island's quiet melancholy. Brontes was already at work, his focus evident as he carefully shaped a piece of molten metal. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a shared acknowledgement of the pain and turmoil left in the wake of the recent events with Odysseus. Without words, both Cyclopes knew the forging would be their way to begin healing, a means to anchor themselves amid the swirling tides of emotion. The crafting session began in respectful silence, interrupted only by the gentle hiss of steam and the occasional crackle of embers. Each hammer strike seemed to carry away fragments of tension, replacing them with a burgeoning peace. In this space, creation became a balm for Polyphemus's soul. As he skillfully molded the metal, Polyphemus felt some of his personal grief and confusion ebb away, replaced by clarity and a sense of purpose. The forge burned brightly, a vivid beacon of life, reminding the Cyclopes of the enduring constancy in their art. Each flicker of flame held a story, each spark a fragment of the ancient island's spirit. As they worked, an unspoken bond of community and shared purpose emerged. The forge was not just a place for crafting items of power. It was a testament to their unity, a reminder that even in solitude, they were never truly alone. The walls that enclosed them sang of stories forged in fire, tales of past creations that shaped the world in subtle ways. For Polyphemus, this act of creation was deeply therapeutic. He poured his emotions into the work, channeling both his longing for understanding and his lingering frustration into the tool he was crafting. With every twist of the metal, he found solace. With every strike of the hammer, he found meaning. By the time his work was complete, he felt lighter, relieved of a burden he hadn't fully realized he was carrying. Steropes, who had joined them quietly, sensed the transformation taking place. He offered wise words, his voice a gentle murmur against the backdrop of activity. Creation and reflection walk hand in hand, he mused, acknowledging how crafting could bring clarity. Such wisdom, shared in peaceful companionship, strengthened Polyphemus's resolve. It reminded him that understanding one's place in the world was often found through the steady hands of creation and the quiet contemplation that followed. The art of craftsmanship was more than a skill. It was a bridge connecting past, present, and future, transcending the isolation that often defined their lives. For the Cyclopes, it was a way of life, a way to communicate their passions and philosophies without uttering a word. It was through this shared endeavor that Polyphemus and his kin reaffirmed their bond with one another, and with their island home, a bond forged with the same strength and resilience as the metal they shaped. As evening fell, the forge continued to blaze with unwavering warmth, a vibrant hearth amid the ancient landscape of the island. The Cyclopes continued their work, the echoes of hammers slowly fading into a gentle rhythm that soothed their spirits. In that tranquil space, Polyphemus felt the edges of his inner turmoil begin to soften, comforted by the knowledge that creation had once again proven to be a powerful healer. As the day's work drew to an end, a sense of completion washed over the forge. The Cyclopes lingered for a moment longer, basking in the warmth that surrounded them. Outside, the world began to settle in with the soothing sounds of nature at day's end, a subtle reminder of the island's enduring serenity. This place of skill and fire had helped Polyphemus and his kin rediscover their harmony, their souls woven tighter by the threads of shared experience. In the quiet glow of the forge's embers, the Cyclopes found themselves renewed, their inner worlds enriched by reflection and the unyielding power of creation. With hearts softened and minds clearer, they prepared to return to the stillness of their island life, carrying with them the peace they had forged together. As the fires of the forge began to dim, a gentle tranquility returned to the island of the Cyclopes, wrapping its inhabitants in a peaceful embrace. Days passed, each carrying with it a sense of calm that started to soothe even the most restless of souls. The island, with its undisturbed beauty and timeless rhythm, seemed to breathe a sigh of relief as harmony was once more on the horizon. Polyphemus, standing amidst the familiar surroundings of his home, found himself gazing out at the serene, expansive sea. The waves lapped softly against the shore, whispering tales of ages past, and in their sound, Polyphemus discovered a sense of peace. The sea, always a boundary between his world and that of others, now seemed to offer not only isolation, but also solace. In the slanting rays of the setting sun, the world appeared softened, and with it, Polyphemus felt a release from the tensions that had once gripped him so tightly. Brontes and Steropes, fellow guardians of this quiet isle, worked side by side with Polyphemus. Their shared experiences, both joyful and burdensome, had forged bonds stronger than any crafted metal. Each day at the forge, they labored not only with their hands but with their hearts, turning raw elements into creations of beauty and purpose. Through crafting, they found unity, their relationship strengthened by the rhythmic cadence of their work, which maintained the delicate balance of island life. Among his swirling thoughts and newfound calm, Polyphemus's inner need began to transform. Where once there was a burning desire to understand the realms beyond his island, now settled an acceptance of the life he lived. The gentle insights from Steropes, the thoughtful voice of their trio, further helped him to see that knowledge was not solely garnered from experience beyond one's horizon. Instead, perspective and understanding could also thrive when nurtured by the familiar and the constant. The harmony that had been disturbed slowly began to weave its way back through the fabric of Cyclopean life. The solitude that each Cyclops had cherished returned, but it was now tempered with a recognition of community and shared existence. At the behest of Steropes, they often engaged in reflections about their craft and lives, finding solace in knowing that their skills and contributions were valued and essential not only to themselves but to each other. As the sun sank low, painting the sky in bands of warm red and orange, Polyphemus led his sheep across the pastures near his cave. The simple act of tending his flock brought quiet contentment to him. The sheep grazed peacefully, their woolly forms dotting the landscape, and Polyphemus moved amongst them with a gentle ease. It was in these moments, surrounded by the voice of nature, that he savored the tranquil pleasures of his isolated world. He found himself smiling often, a soft appreciation for life's gentle rhythms overtaking him. Words were exchanged sparsely between Polyphemus and his fellow Cyclopes, for it was their shared presence and silent company that spoke louder than any language. There was a silent acknowledgement of their collective growth and resilience that each of them carried within their hearts. It was an understanding that despite what had passed, the essence of their existence, of their culture and community, was stronger than any adversities they might face. In the company of Brontes and Steropes, Polyphemus understood that their strengths were in their creations, their solitude in their shared resolve, and their peace in their understanding of each other. With each passing day, the island's gentle rhythms continued to cradle its inhabitants back into a state of restored balance and quiet contentment. It was a realization that the world, though vast and filled with uncertainties, was made manageable, even welcoming, through the bonds they had forged and the wisdom they had gained. As the day gave way to dusk and the skies wore the deeper hues of approaching night, the island of the Cyclopes was steeped in a newfound calm. Polyphemus stood at the entrance of his cave, looking out at the broad vista before him. The sea's gentle lullaby serenaded the night, forming a reassuring backdrop to the scene of tranquility that now seemed eternal. A soft breeze whispered through the olive groves, carrying with it a promise of rest and a return to the essence of the land. This gentle equilibrium was a reminder that peace did not solely depend on isolation, but flourished through the acceptance of what is and the appreciation of what one has. In this acceptance, Polyphemus found harmony, not only with the world around him, but also within himself. He knew then that the island's stories continued, timeless and shared, weaving together the essence of their existence under the watch of the single eye. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, leaving a lingering glow, a sense of calm washed over the island. The Cyclopes returned to their caves, each wrapped in the cloak of quiet and serene reflection, readying themselves for the repose the night would bring. Harmony had returned to the land, nurturing its inhabitants with an embrace as gentle as the softest of breezes. As the quiet night draped over the island, Polyphemus stood at the edge of the shoreline, gazing into the distance where the vast sea shimmered under the gentle caress of the moonlight. The soothing sounds of the waves echoed a calming lullaby, a natural melody that washed over him like an embrace, whispering of peaceful solitude. Time had slipped by since Odysseus and his men had departed, leaving behind echoes of their extraordinary encounter. Gradually, the intensity of their visit began to fade, becoming a mere ripple in the ocean of Polyphemus's memory. With a deep, reflective breath, Polyphemus embraced the solitude that the island offered. Unlike the turbulent sensations that Odysseus had stirred within him, solitude had become a comforting companion, one that required neither words nor gestures, but simply the existence of being. In this quietude, Polyphemus found space to ponder over these newfound experiences, allowing them to settle like sand on the ocean floor. The distant world beyond the sea no longer beckoned with the same mysterious allure, for he had glimpsed it through the eyes of visiting strangers and found solace in his place within the swaying rhythms of his island's life. Silence, now a cherished friend, enveloped the island, where the only sound was the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. The Cyclopes resumed their routines, tending to their crafts and dwelling in an untouched serenity. Among them, Polyphemus found comfort in his crafted works. Each piece he forged was a testament, not only to the skill of his hands but also to the narratives they silently carried, stories shaped by fire and steel. Each hammer strike echoed the resilient beat of continuity, a rhythm as eternal as the sea's ebb and flow. The forge, warm and unwavering, stood as a beacon of community and a shrine of creation. Its fires burned steadily, a testament to the enduring craftsmanship of the Cyclopes. Here, in the forge's heart, Polyphemus encountered the ideals of warmth and shared skill, amidst flickering flames and glowing embers. The forge welcomed him with open arms as it did the others, enveloping them in its glow. It was a sanctuary of focus and understanding, where silence spoke volumes and the single eye motif became a beacon of clarity and insight. Embracing his solitude, Polyphemus accepted his role as the guardian of this island and its many secrets. The encounters with Odysseus had been a brief glimpse into another world, but they had left a deeper understanding within him. He realized that true strength lay not only in physical might, but in the clarity of vision and the steadfastness of purpose. The island's treasures, both visible and hidden, were safely cradled in his guardianship, their value known only to those who understood the language of the earth and the sea. As the night progressed, the island lay bathed in the serene embrace of moonlight. Silvery beams gently traced the landscape, revealing the sleeping forms of Brontes and Steropes, who lay comfortably cocooned within the island's peace. The tranquility was palpable, undisturbed and timeless, an eternal moment where even the stars seemed to pause. In this stillness, Polyphemus found reassurance, knowing the island and its inhabitants were once again at peace, cradled by the gentle rhythms of nature. With a single, focused gaze, Polyphemus looked upon the water, reflecting upon his newfound understanding. The sea, now a familiar friend, held no fear or mystery, only endless horizons of possibility. The island whispered its tales beneath the moon's watchful eye, inviting any who might care to listen into its ancient embrace. The waves continued their ceaseless dance, as if reminding Polyphemus that life, in all its forms, was a series of gentle movements and pauses, much like the night, which fell into a deep, thoughtful hush. Finally feeling content, Polyphemus turned back toward his home, the island's comforting presence wrapping around him like a cherished memory. The solitude he once questioned became the firm ground upon which he stood, a sustaining force marked by quiet joy. As he made his way back to the cave, the forge's glow became his guiding lantern under the expansive sky. The island, now in repose, lingered in serenity, awaiting the whispers of dawn. It remained a place of secrets kept through millennia, sheltered and watchful, just as its guardian Polyphemus watched over the lands he loved. The story of the island emerged like a gentle dream, an enduring night filled with the promise of restful slumber and tranquil tomorrow.